Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us today in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. आज हम Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 4 with the subject matter of how to become Krishna conscious, how to engage in Lord Krishna's service as a householder. So this is an essential secret we will be studying. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा डियर व्यूअर्स, डियर डिवोटीज, आप सभी का अभिनंदन है। आज की भागवतम क्लास में प्रभु जी बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट लेसन शेयर करेंगे एज ए हाउस होल्डर, हाउ वी कैन सर्व कृष्णा, हाउ वी कैन प्लीज कृष्णा, हाउ वी कैन ग्रेजुअली सरेंडर टू कृष्णा। हरि बोल प्रभु जी, कैरी ऑन।
Hare Krishna, please join us for JIva Tattva prayers. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari, Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
हरे कृष्णा डियर व्यूअर्स, आप सभी का वेलकम है, अभिनंदन है। आज की जो क्लास है इसमें जीव तत्व प्रभु जी हमसे कुछ बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट लेसन्स शेयर करेंगे श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 2 चैप्टर 4 से। इस सब्जेक्ट पे थ्रू आउट द भागवतम डिफरेंट प्लेसेस पे बहुत अच्छे अच्छे लेसन्स हैं, लेकिन आज हम कैंटो 2 चैप्टर 4 से सुनेंगे हाउस होल्डर की जो लाइफ होती है, इसमें किस तरीके से वी कैन डू अवर एक्टिविटीज़, हाउ वी कैन हैव अंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट Bhagwan and his devotees and different spiritual aspects in our lives so that we can come closer to Krishna. So Prabhuji, please carry on with the class.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us for Mangalacharan prayers together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiryet Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shamana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Dasha Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Please join us in the recitation of verse 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 chapter 4, the process of creation. Atma Jaya Sutagara Pashu Dravina Bandhushu Rajye Chavikale Nityam Virudham Mamatam Jaho. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and elephants, his treasury house, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Deshitarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatripatadahum Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So this verse is revealing some amazing lessons to us. So if I was to ask you, where and when did Arjun hear Bhagavad Gita first? Then he would say it's very easy. At the battle of Kurukshetra, when the Pandavas army and the Kauravas army, they were gathered together to fight. And right after the conches were, blown, and the war was inevitable. So at that time, Arjun asked Lord Krishna to take his chariot in the midst of the two armies, so he can, see who are these gathered warriors on the side of Kauravas, ready to fight, to satisfy the sons of Kauravas. And at that time he became bewildered, so that's when he heard Bhagavad Gita. Now if I was to ask you, when Arjun realized the teachings of Bhagavad Gita fully, then it will become little tricky, right? क्योंकि भाई सुना अर्जुन ने बैटलफील्ड पे, लेकिन उसको पूरी तरह से समझा कब है? When he is bringing the wives of Lord Krishna and the, so जब वो वापस ला रहा था from Dwarka to Hastinapur. At that time,
he was simply defeated by a few coward men with sticks in their hand. And he was surprised that he still had the Gandiva bow, he still had those divine weapons. He was still the same valiant warrior, but he could not protect those ladies, the wives of Lord Krishna. And so this is where he realized the important instruction of Lord Shri Krishna. Nimitra matram bhavya sabyasachi. So we are just an instrument in the hands of Lord Shri Krishna. So when we serve Lord Shri Krishna, we become happy. And when we try to enjoy our senses, try to seek enjoyment of senses, thinking I'm this body, when we are not this body, we are living entities, Jiva, right? Atma. And Atma is like, residing in the heart of the living, of the body, where Paramatma is right there, super soul, right? So he is also there. So we have to understand properly, from that perspective, that realization follows knowledge, but may not be an immediate effect. There may be an experience involved for us to, realize that knowledge in full. So here, Maharaj Parikshit, in this particular verse, has been revealed by Sutta Goswami. He is identifying that Maharaj Parikshit when he went to meditation. So the previous verse started with Sutta Uvacha. So Sutta Goswami at Naimisharanya is revealing, right, to the sages, because he was present in the assembly where Maharaj Parikshit was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukdev Goswami. And Maharaj Parikshit immediately went into meditation, and he could give up his attachment to his body by meditating on Lord Shri Krishna. So this is a very important aspect. And now somebody could say, wait a minute, but Maharaj Parikshit already gave up the world, he gave up his wife, he gave up his children, and he gave up his treasury, he gave up all his elephants and horses, and he gave up everything that's belonging, all his relatives, his palace, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. He had already given that up. And then he came to this. Yes, so sometimes we may renounce things, but the attachment may still be there. It was at this moment Maharaj Parikshit was able to give up the attachment to his body, his very self, and anything that's related to the body. So here, very nicely it has been explained that when we think of body, that, then what are the expansions of this body? What are the extensions of this body? So in a householder life, in a householder life, a man is known as Kṛṣṇa, so of the 4 ashrams, so Kṛṣṇa ashram. And he's situated in a householder life, so he of course has a wife. And with husband and wife together, you see that they have children. That's where the family concept comes in. A man who does not have children in a householder life is a very miserable state. He's in a constant anxiety, because as per Vedic culture. Now in today's material world, the situation is going upside down, right? Husband and wife, they don't want children for a long time so that they can enjoy this material life. They want to enjoy the senses, they want to put the senses in the center. But in the process, what is happening? They are becoming more and more miserable, and they are increasing expectations from each other. Instead of giving relationship, it is transforming into a taking relationship. And that's why marriage life becomes very miserable for husband and wife, because there are no children, and there are no deities, there is no religiosity, there is no engagement in devotional service. So in the absence of all these things, people become miserable. So with wife, the extension is children. So one becomes attached to children also, thinking I'm this body, and my body is with my wife, is meant to enjoy a family as a householder, as in a family life. And then now that I have children, now the children will give me pleasure. Yes, it is true that the relationships give happiness, it gives pleasure. But when the relationship is based on giving attitude, when the relationship is based on giving attitude, then everything is happy. when the relationship is based on taking attitude for our own sense gratification, then everything becomes flickering happiness, mostly miserable, right? Mostly distress. Now this is a very interesting aspect when we talk about that how this distress comes is now that you have children, now you have to maintain those children, maintain your wife, so now you have to not just make sure that you have clothes and food stuff to eat, but also protection. So a man works very hard to build a house. Now he also builds attachment to the house, he takes care of the house, maintains the house so that everything is going fine. And with respect to house, now he has to maintain this house, he has to go at a far distance, travel long distance, to work. So for that, in old times, they used to manage horses and elephants as a, for commuting. Yet at the same time, Srila Prabhupada and the purpose says that in today's time, man has replaced those horses and elephants with vehicles, automobiles. And these have horsepowers, with many horsepowers. So very nicely Srila Prabhupada is reminding us that yes, the form may change, but the activities are similar. So in today's time, people are engaged with, and now that they are having vehicles and they are engaged in maintaining their families, further extension happens with work. They develop friendship with others, so they have a circle of friends, and to be able to show that they are in a well-off state, they try to maintain a status quo. That means they try to earn money so that they have a good bank balance. And by having a bank balance, they can feel comfortable that, okay, I can sustain my family very well. Yet at the same time, make a show off of my, nice, wonderful family life in front of all my friends and family, extended families. While inside there may be many issues, but he will cover everything. He will push this, sweep it under the carpet. And this actually reminds me, there was an incident where I was visiting my friend's house and he said, why don't you come? Look, my son, he's so nicely dressed. And he keeps his room spick and span. I was really impressed. I went into the room. Like, yes, this child is very nicely keeping everything arranged, and everything is very well, in nice positions. And I congratulated him, you have a very nice son and so forth. And now he went in to say, you know what, I don't see one of his trophies here. So let me show you, he received a trophy recently. He opened the closet and boom, came down all the loads of clothes and blankets and the pillows. They were literally being shoved into the closet. And so this is where happens, instead of sweeping under the floor, this kid had pushed everything in the closet. And so when the closet was open, all that unorganized items, they became visible. So we do this sometimes, to make a show of things, because afterwards he revealed that he worked half a day to arrange his son's room, but he didn't realize that after he left, his son had actually pushed everything that he could not arrange into a closet, and that's why it was cluttered. So we have this tendency as well, sometimes in a family life, that we are, making everything look very nice outside, but there may be issues inside. What is more important is that we resolve the issues inside more than making a show of outside. Right? That is the core aspect. And this is where devotion service comes in to make us align properly. Because instead of thinking that I'm this body and my wife is for my enjoyment, my children is there for my enjoyment, instead of putting ourselves in the center, we have to place Lord Krishna in the center by developing devotion to Krishna in the householder life. So when everyone is serving Lord Shri Krishna, we are encouraging everyone, we are singing together, we are praying together, we are doing kirtan together, we are eating prasadam together, all the activities suddenly become transcendental. Yes, you got it. So this is the glories of devotional life, that in a householder situation, in a householder life, when everything is dovetailed in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna, who is in the center, then we can properly become detached from everything around us with loving exchanges, right? Srila Rupa Goswami, he identifies the 6 loving exchanges. And they appear in the pairs, so it's very easy. There are 3 pairs. What is the first pair? Dadati pratigrahanati. So giving of gifts and accepting gifts. It's not taking gifts. It's not being demanded that we have to forcefully give gifts. It's not saying, oh, on my son's birthday he gave me a $20 worth of gifts, so I have to give him a $20 worth of gift on his son's birthday. Wait a minute. I have one son only. He has 2 sons. All these calculations start. We should not do it. We should be giving of gifts as a reflection of our love, a reflection of our appreciation. So this is much above the materialistic mindset. It is transcendental, above the 3 modes of material nature. Giving of gifts and accepting gifts, not taking, not feeling that, oh, you gave me that, it was not worth it, you should have given me more. This is a taking attitude, rather accepting everything we are getting is by the mercy of the Lord. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of Lord Shri Krishna. So from that perspective, Dadati Pratigayanati, Guhyam Akhyati Pruchiri. Guhyam is confidential matters. Akhyati, so we discuss confidential matters. Prichati is we are inquiring about these, confidential matters. And these are not that we are just discussing Lord Shri Krishna's pastimes, but also all the services. How do we serve Lord Shri Krishna? How do we make sure that everyone in the family member is Krishna conscious? So that is the focus. And sometimes we see that the family members are not Krishna conscious. So at that time, we are not able to serve together, Krishna and the saintly people. Then what do we do? That is a normal question. People ask that. Right? What do we do? I want to serve Krishna, but my family is not cooperating. Well, pray for your family. Right? Feed them prasadam. On top of that, help them understand the elevation of the consciousness, right? To help them understand why should they give up intoxication, why they should give up meat eating. Our human body, this form is very rare first of all. And it is not meant for meat eating purposes. Why? Because if you look at our teeth, only as a concession we have given 2 canine teeth. Otherwise, all the teeth are meant, if you look at herbivores from their perspective. We are supposed to be consuming grains, fruits, vegetables, all these things, not meat. On top of that, after this comes our stomach, which is a small space where everything gets mixed. And then we have intestines which are long, much longer than the meat-eating animals, the carnivores. Which means, if you do eat meat, then it goes in your stomach and rots for a long time. Causes all kind of diseases. That is mode of ignorance. In mode of darkness, not knowing that actually your liver is working extra hard, your body parts are working extra hard, and your body is actually containing garbage for many, many hours, which is creating poisonous situation inside the body. Sometimes people say, what about proteins? We get proteins from meat. Now the scientists have come to this conclusion that actually people who eat meat are getting too much protein. And we get sufficient protein with lentils, with chickpeas and many other important vegetables that we see. So again, that's why a vegetarian diet is a perfect diet to maintain us. And it's very interesting at work. At one place, one of my colleagues, he was like saying, but you can't survive just on vegetables, fruits and grains. You got to have meat. Look at all the animals. And I said, yes, look at the largest animal on land. Elephant is a vegetarian. That actually ended the conversation right there. He was like speechless. Yes, it is true. You cannot avoid it. So we have to understand that everything has been given to us with a purpose. And this body, if we eat just to satisfy the body, then the body also will not be fully satisfied, because the food is first of all, everything that we get has to be first offered to Lord Shiva. He is the Yagyapati, he is the Yagya Purusha. Right? Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvalok Maheshwaram Suhidam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvam Shanti Vrichati. Lord Krishna is revealing, and this verse Srila Prabhupada reveals is called peace formula. If you want to be peaceful, then you want to understand this formula very well. By understanding this formula would be one aspect. Having the knowledge of the formula is one aspect. but having realized it, is another aspect. Just like here, Parikshit Maharaj, he was able to, with realization, detach himself from everything that's attached to his body, like his wife, his son, and so forth. Bhoktaram yagatapsam sarvalok maheshwaram. Bhoktaram yagatapsam means he is the beneficiary of all sacrifices. So if you feel you are making sacrifices to your family, for your society, for your nation, think of it. How is it serving Lord Shri Krishna? How can you dovetail that sacrifice in serving Lord Shri Krishna, which actually benefits the nation, society, and your family? So everything is meant to serve. He is the beneficiary. He is the Yajna Purusha. And when we know this from fire sacrifices, when we make oblations in the fire of ghee and various objects, then we say Swaha, right? It ends, the verse ends with Swaha. So at that time, what does Swaha mean? Swaha is the wife of Yajna Purusha, right? So we are giving it to the mother to deliver it to father. So again, this way we become detached from the activities and we become more attached to the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna when we serve together Lord Krishna and saintly people. And Yajna Purusha, he is the one who is the beneficiary. Lord Krishna is the beneficiary. So all sacrifices that we perform should be performed, to please Lord Shri Krishna. So that is our main motive. Then Sarvalok Maheshwaram. Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor of all the material and spiritual universes. So he is the supreme proprietor. So in reality, whatever we own has been provided to us temporarily by him. Now sometimes when we say temporarily, people get offended. Why? Because they say, no, I want to stick with this forever. Well, Janmittu Jaravadi Dukkha Doshanudashana. Our body is constantly facing these four pangs, right? It takes birth, the body, faces death, it can get sick, right? And it gets old. So this is very important. Now we are talking about the loving exchanges, that we inquire about confidential matters and we discuss confidential matters, accepting gifts and giving gifts, inquiring about confidential matters and discussing confidential matters, right? And then bhunjate bhujate cheva. So giving prasadam and accepting prasadam. Sadvita priti lakshanam. So this enhances priti, right? Love. So that our loving relationships between husband and wife, between the family members, and between the friends and the society, everything enhances when we are engaged in loving exchanges. With keeping Lord Krishna in the center, because everything that we have received is from him. So everything is meant to please Lord Krishna. And Surhidam Sarva Bhutanam. Lord Krishna says that he is our best friend, Surhidam. He is a benefactor, he is a well-wisher. So when we understand that Lord Krishna is our well-wisher, then we understand that everything that's happening to us is for our benefit. Like benefactor means who only thinks of your benefit. Well-wisher means who only wishes you well. So even if outwardly something is appearing to be adverse, right? Something is appearing to be, not so favorable, is actually favorable for us in that given situation. Now this, how do we understand from Parikshit Maharaj's scenario? He was cursed by a Brahman boy. So he was engaged in a worldly affair as an emperor of the world. He had 4 sons, Iravati as his wife, and he was ruling very nicely. Now being cursed, what happened? He understood that he has very short span of time, just 7 days remaining. And in 7 days, he will be leaving his body. So he immediately gave up everything to meditate on Lord Shri Krishna, and he was fasting until death at the bank of Ganges. In Hastinapur, this is Yamuna flowing. So since Sangam ke baad mein, Yamuna is also sometimes referred to as Ganges. So he was at the bank of Ganges, ready to hear from the sages. And Shukdev Goswami appeared. So it is by Lord's mercy that Shukdev Goswami appeared at that place to give him full realization. He grew up in a household, as grandson of the Pandavas, and he was taught by the best of the Brahmanas. We already heard that. So he was already aware that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was already aware of the creative impetus. He was already aware how the material creation happens, primary creation, secondary creation, and so forth. So he was already aware. Yet at the same time, sometimes when you are busy with your, important office affairs, you may forget about the essential things that you have to take care at home or in your life, right? Because you're so busy with work. And believe me, many times when we are having the discourse, many ladies, they complain that their husband is so absorbed at work that it is very difficult for them to pull their husband out to take care of the family matters, right? The family affairs. If there is something is broken at home, it gets delayed for many, many days because they are so busy at work and thinking about worldly matters. So it is also very important that we focus on all aspects. And when we focus on Lord Shri Krishna, it gives us that sanity ground. We become the observer of our life. We can lift ourselves above and see how everything is going on. This sanctity, this stableness comes by engagement in devotion service, by understanding the purpose of life. And here Parikshit Maharaj is becoming detached from all this. So this is a realization. He's realizing that Lord Krishna is the supreme goal of life. So we, don't have to wait to offend a Brahman and then curse by the Brahman. We should take lessons from another person's action so that we can awaken our consciousness and follow the right path. And here, Parikshit Maharaj was lucky that Shukdev Goswami appeared on the scene. So he had a wonderful spiritual master who was already self-realized and then further endued with the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam to give him full realization within 7 days, very short span of time. So here, he was lucky. But in our life, we don't know how long we are going to live. We don't know if we'll get a shelter of a spiritual master or not. So we should be anxiously looking for that shelter. We should be anxiously looking to find out where I can get proper association. And you can be inside the house and detached. That is better realization, because then you are using all your facilities in service of Lord Shri Krishna. It is very interesting that after Srimad Bhagavatam is over, again Janmejaya, the eldest son of Parikshit Maharaj, who is now ruling as the emperor of the world, after Parikshit Maharaj has taken his family and his fasting at the bank of Ganges, he has taken that step. At that time, Janmejaya is the ruler, emperor of the world. And Janmejaya did not get proper realization. Had Parikshit Maharaj performed devotional service while in home, Janmejaya would not have led to that sacrifice where all the Nagas were burned. But then, that was also a curse of Kadru to her own sons, right? So that is also very important to understand that there was a reason behind it, that these Nagas who were burned in that particular sacrifice were because a mother had cursed her own sons, the Nagas, right? Kadru had cursed her own sons, and Vinita was her slave at that time. So again, her sister. So that's another story we have covered another time. But here, Parikshit Maharaj, he was able to realize and so give up the attachment. So as a householder, we can be in the house but detached. And in reality, if we look at it, a householder, a person, a man in a house is called Grahastha. So Grahastha, he is situated in householder life. But who is the owner of the house? Grahini. Grahini refers to the lady who is the owner of the house. So unlike in present times, people, they fight over the house and property. In Vedic system, it was already known that the wife is actually the owner of the house and husband is there to protect her and to provide, maintain her and the house affairs with focusing on Lord Shri Krishna in the center. If somebody does not focus on Lord Shri Krishna in the center and is rather thinking, I am the owner of the house and everything is for my enjoyment, then his position becomes very miserable. he becomes Graha Medhi, right? So just like, that is like a mixed state, and it's some very miserable status, because just like people become miserable thinking I am this body, and then the four kind of changes cause, the Graha Medhi state is very much like that. He is more miserable, 1,000 times more miserable than a Grahastha, because he is thinking everything is for my pleasure. So instead of accepting, he is taking. Instead of giving, he is restricting, he is holding things. And this is where the whole society around him goes down, because everyone around him is associating, is having similar feeling. There is a saying in India, in Hindi, एक गंदी मछली पूरे तालाब को गंदा कर देती है, or one dirty fish, polluted fish spoils the whole lake. So this is what happens, because he is showing this attitude, his children sees this, when they grow up they carry out that particular example, and so forth. So here Srila Prabhupada very nicely identified that, Parikshit Maharaj, and he is able to completely detach himself.
Who is
Parikshit Maharaj is able to detach himself from his wife, further extension his children, further extension to maintain the wife is the treasury, right? By developing attachment at the lotus feet of Krishna. So he took himself out from the center, and he placed Lord Krishna in the center and adopted everything in service of Lord Shri Krishna from that point onwards. So he had already renounced, but the attachment was at this moment that he was able to give up under the proper instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, Shukdev Goswami, who was a pure devotee and a realized soul. So by serving together Lord Krishna as a family, we can all become better. And in addition to that, prayers are powerful. So we should pray for our family members who are not able to take to Krishna consciousness. So that is one of the important aspects. Now I want to read a couple of sentences that Srila Prabhupada wrote in the purport, which are very powerful. He's saying, attachment for household paraphernalia and for Lord Krishna go poorly together. So this is very interesting, because somebody could say, wait a minute, I can enjoy my senses while I serve Lord Shri Krishna. But then Srila Prabhupada is saying that they don't go well together. Why don't they go well together? Let's see. One, attachment, with keeping senses in the center for sense enjoyment. That attachment is the path of darkness. It's in Tamogara, it's in mode of, now sometimes, when we look at three modes of material nature, but the whole influence of material nature is causing forgetfulness of our very self. We are thinking, I am this body, so it is darkness. And the other attachment, the attachment to the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, is the path of light. So where there is light, can be no darkness, and where there is darkness, there is no light. But an expert devotee can turn everything to the path of light by an attitude of service to the Lord. And the best example here is the Pandavas. So sometimes people say, can you tell us about householders who are able to do this? The Pandavas did it. They knew Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They were his devotees. And so they engaged in carrying out the mission of Lord Shri Krishna. And Lord Shri Krishna carried out in serving Pandavas as his reciprocation, as his love, as his affection towards his devotees. So this is Lord Shri Krishna, who is so affectionate that he provides us everything when we engage in serving him with everything that we have. So we can only be an instrument in a service, and to become happy, to become peaceful, to become joyful, where every step is a dance and every word is a song, we have to dovetail everything in Lord Krishna's service. Only then we can be in full light. Otherwise, we will be putting our feet in two boats and both going in opposite direction. And you can understand what will happen. We will sink down in the middle. So that is an essential important aspect. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Muchyate. So Vairagya, renunciation, the true renunciation is Yukta means proper renunciation. And Vairagya is renunciation. What is proper renouncing? When we dovetail everything in Lord Krishna's service. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. Without having its relationship with us, rather relate it with Lord Shri Krishna. This also helps us in minimizing the four other pangs. eat, sleep, mate, defend. So then we eat what is just sufficient to maintain the body. We sleep, and actually it starts reducing by engaging in devotional service. Our sleep reduces, our eating automatically reduces, because we understand that we have to maintain the body, not engage in hoarding, and that atyahara, overeating, because that will make our body dull, not be able to perform the activities properly in serving Lord Shri Krishna. So automatically the demand of the body will go down, and we will be able to serve him nicely. So to please Lord Shri Krishna, we want to do it in the best manner. So when we do it in the best manner, Lord Krishna blesses us with the best of all things. That is an essential aspect. And so it is for our benefit that we develop an attachment with Lord Shri Krishna, to his lotus feet. When you go to meet a very powerful man, then you very influential, very rich man, then you take gifts and other paraphernalia. When Lord Krishna is here everywhere, and he is just waiting for us to turn towards him to serve him. So imagine, and everything has been provided to us by Lord Shri Krishna. So it is meant to be used in his service. And who does not use it in this manner becomes an offender and starts his journey on the path of darkness. So we don't want to be in darkness. Even if we have been there, we want to start turning back, turn around, so that we can, take the path of light, and we can experience eternal happiness by developing devotion to Krishna in household life. Hare Krishna. So this is where we would like to end today's class.
Hare Krishna, dear viewers. Thank you for watching. And now Prabhuji is going to answer some of the questions you may have. You can type your questions in the comments area. I will read your questions to Prabhuji. We already have a few questions, Prabhuji, and I will read them to you. And till then, I want to let everyone know, जिन्होंने अभी ज्वाइन किया है, प्रभु जी ने आज जो क्लास दी है श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 2 चैप्टर 4 में बहुत सारे लेसन्स हैं. उसमें एक सेक्शन है हाउ वी कैन मेक अवर हाउस होल्डर्स लाइफ perfect. As a householder living outside the temple, we can still practice bhakti. We can develop devotion for Krishna. So Prabhuji gave some insight on that. अगर आपको इस subject से related कुछ questions हैं तो please comments में type करिए. Otherwise also आपको किसी भी area में questions हो अपनी spiritual life को कैसे advance करना है, Prabhuji can help you. So I can now ask the questions. Shishupal ji, Hare Krishna, I have seen your questions. I will ask Prabhuji now. Hari Bol. So Shishupal Vaishnav ji ने questions पूछे हैं और करुणा सिंधु प्रभु जी ने भी questions पूछे हैं. I will go one by one. Prabhu ji, one more question is, sometimes we are trying to achieve or get something and it's not happening, or we are not getting it. How to handle this, and what is the reason of non-beliefs? So I think maybe he had one more question before that. I will try to pull it up, but for now maybe you can answer this part. Maybe throw some light that in household life also, when we are not able to achieve sometimes what we are trying to work for, how should we handle it? Meanwhile, I'll pull up his first question. Shishupal Yadav ji, Vaishnav ji, sorry. Shishupal
Vaishnav ji, so your question is important. When we are trying to achieve something, we should also think of it. How does it help me in my bhakti, in my devotion to Lord Shri Krishna? And not a blade of grass moves without Lord's desire, right? We talked about this. So if Lord Krishna is not sanctioning, what could be the reason? Well, maybe we don't have enough qualification to be able to achieve it. That's one way. So maybe we need to develop our qualification. Or maybe if we have qualification, still not able to achieve it, because it could be that there are various aspects. I'm just giving you various aspects that how as devotees we would look at individual situations. So again, these situations are very context driven. So what is it that you are trying to achieve is something that you may have to explain further. But important aspect is, if it is unfavorable for our spiritual growth, right, unfavorable for us, which will take us away from Lord Shri Krishna, that could be another reason that we are not able to achieve. Or third scenario is that even something better than that we are overseeing is appearing to us, but we are having an oversight. We are not recognizing the great fortune we are having to take to and become more attached to Lord's lotus feet. So those three areas, when you think, you will be able to come to the solution. Hare Krishna. Hopefully this answers.
Hare Krishna. So Shishupal Vaishnav ji ka first question jo tha, I have
Yes.
pulled it up.
Okay.
Actually, I think his other two questions were related to
Oh,
this.
okay. Very nice.
Okay, so his question was, Prabhuji, 4 varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra.
Yes.
And some hearing our Shudra service is rest of 3. But in ISKCON, many of foreign devotees are serving Krishna, then how it's applicable law? Please explain, I need to understand. I think he wants to have a clear understanding about, as where householder fits in here and
Okay.
how the Shudra service applies. So maybe you can throw some light on this.
Hare Krishna, Shishupal Vaishnav ji, they have Varna ashram system, right? Have 4 Varnas and 4 ashrams. So Varnas you listed, Brahman were the scholarly people, Kshatriyas the administrators, Vaishyas the mercantile men, the farmers, people who take care of cattle, cows and so forth. And then Shudras, people who do the labor and service to other 3 Varnas. So these are Varnas, but there are 4 ashrams. So Brahmacharya ashram, when a small child, he is as a bachelor life, you can call it that particular time, it's called Brahmacharya. Then, and the focus is Brahmacharya is when a student life, that's what it refers to. Second is householder life, Grahastha ashram. So the ashram is shelter. So one takes shelter of Grahastha life, right? Householder life. Getting married, having family, and in the householder life is the only time when one is able to look at the 4 aspects that we'll be discussing in the next verse, which is Dharma, Earth, Kam, Moksha. Dharma is religiosity, Earth is economic development, Kam is basically engagement in various activities, but in a materialistic perspective, it is referred to as enjoyment, and Moksha is liberation, to attain salvation. So in Grihastha life, these 4 aspects are there. Then there is Vanaprastha, which is retirement, retired life, when one gives up the household engagement and starts to prepare for his spiritual journey. And then last but not the least is Sannyas ashram. So Sannyas ashram, which comes later in life in many cases, then one dedicates all activities in serving Lord Shri Krishna. So body, mind and words, all are engaged, performed by these, is to serve Lord Shri Krishna. So from that perspective, when you're talking of Grihastha ashram, so that is an ashram, one of the 4 ashram. And Grihastha ashram actually maintains all 4 ashrams, not only its own self. That's why it is said that Grihastha ashram supports the Brahmacharya ashram. So in old days, in Vedic civilization, Vedic culture times, the students would go to the villages and towns and they would say Bhikshandehi, give us some alms, and they would take all the, so householders had this duty that they would give some foodstuffs to all these students who would come to the doorstep, which they would take back to their ashram, to their guru, and the guru would have, he could very well be a householder, just like Vyasdev was a householder. So the wife of guru, she would act like a mother to all these children, the students, and she would cook meal, and then afterwards, it would be offered to the lordship and distributed among the students, and they would, sustain themselves. So even the, old times in Gurukul, the gurus were not charging money per se, rather they were taking care of very nicely with all this arrangement. Yes, the parents of the children would come and visit and give them all kind of paraphernalia, and these sometimes were great rishis. So the kingly personalities would come and they would make them various kind of gifts. तो उनको बहुत तरह के उपहार दिए जाते थे. वो लोग लेकिन बहुत ही साधारण तरीके से अपना जीवन ब्राह्मण की तरह व्यतीत करते थे. तो ये उस समय की बात हुई. आज के समय क्या हो रहा है? आज जब हम देखते हैं जो foreigners हैं, right? They are, at the temple, and they have taken to, they have elevated themselves by taking to devotional service, to the level of brahmanas. They are scholarly people. And Brahman is Brahma Bhuta, Prasannatma, right? So he is above the three modes of material nature when he becomes a Vaishnava. That's why Vaishnava is even higher than Brahman, because Brahman is in the mode of goodness. But Vaishnava is even higher because he is directly engaged in the transcendental service of Lord Shri Krishna. So they are constantly serving the deities, they constantly take care of the temples, and the temple is not in the three modes of material nature, rather it is transcendental to the three modes, the temple environment where they are engaged. Yet at the same time, yes, we are so fortunate that we get to visit. So we could be in, any of those four varnas, but we get to visit the temple which is in the mode of, above the three modes. It is in transcendental शुद्ध सत्व रेफर किया गया है, जो भगवान का जो है ट्रांसेंडेंटल अबोर्ड है. तो टेम्पल इज हाउस ऑफ लॉर्ड, तो वो शुद्ध सत्व पे है. तो सब लोग जो उनको सर्व कर रहे हैं, दे आर इवन हायर देन ब्राह्मणस, because they can purify everyone. When Brahmana on carrying out his duties may not be able to just purify himself, but a Vaishnava can purify everyone around him as well as himself. So that is the potency. And when we talk about foreigners, then again we are looking at it from bodily perspective. We are thinking that they have a foreign body. In reality, this bodily designation is what we have to rise above. Sometimes people say that, okay, women cannot be preachers, women cannot be gurus, because they are looking from the bodily perspective. What can be done, what cannot be done. And yes, there are influences of body. So again, in the Shastras, when we hear that a woman cannot be in the mode of goodness, that is true, cannot be in the mode of goodness, because scriptures say that, Vedas say that, scriptures say that, Srila Prabhupada says that. But a Vaishnava is above the three modes of material nature, so nothing stops a woman from becoming transcendental to the three modes of material nature by engaging in devotional service. And one who understands the science of Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said, can become a preacher, can become, a guru. So that was the qualification for a guru, not the modes of material nature. So again, we have to understand everything with the proper respect. Hopefully this answers your question and maybe more. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks for the insight. शिशुपाल वैष्णव जी, आई होप आपको प्रभु जी का जो डिटेल एक्सप्लेनेशन उन्होंने अभी दिया चारों वर्णों के बारे में, एंड हाउ in each ashram we can perform our duties and services to increase our devotion for Krishna. Or Prabhuji, we have another question from Karuna Sindhu Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Karuna Sindhu Prabhu.
And meanwhile, I'm pulling it up. I want to thank all the viewers for who have been there watching from the beginning. और उनके बेनिफिट के लिए हम बता दें, प्रभु जी आपके क्वेश्चंस ले रहे हैं अभी. आप कमेंट्स एरिया में अपने क्वेश्चंस टाइप कर सकते हैं. प्रभु जी विल बी आंसरिंग योर क्वेश्चंस. करुणा सिंधु प्रभु जी, हरे कृष्णा. इनका क्वेश्चन है, हाउ कैन वन ओवरकम डिजायर्स ऑफ मूवी वॉचिंग? और लिखा है, इन हाउस होल्ड लाइफ देयर आर मेनी डिस्ट्रैक्शंस.
Yes. So you have actually two questions. Right, in household life there are many distractions, and this is something as a responsibility. Every ashram has its distractions, right? So in household life, which is one of the ashramas, one has to take care of wife, one has to take care of children, one has to take care of maintaining the house, one has to take care of going to work so that sufficient Lakshmi is there, and to go to work one has to take care of vehicles, and vehicles also need maintenance, they also break down. So everything around us that has a beginning has an end, and to maintain is the toughest job. That's why in this material world, this makes us realize that creation is easy. You can go to the market, buy something quickly. Creation is easy. Destruction is easy. You can burn anything and it's gone, destroyed, or you can throw into garbage, it's gone, destroyed. But the maintenance, that particular part is the toughest part. And that is also true for our body, right? We have to maintain our body, we have to maintain the bodies of all our family members, even the body of the house and the body of... So again, when we talk about this, these are various kind of arrangements that we have. And everything needs to be maintained. And for that, people take care of, they do various jobs to be able to take care of it. So yes, there are distractions. And sometimes when somebody becomes very tired because they are thinking that I am maintaining everything for my sense enjoyment, then these become distractions. When we think that we are maintaining everything for the pleasure of Krishna, then they become transcendental, all our activities. Then we actually enjoy, let me not use the word enjoy, but like we actually feel transcendental bliss in seeing everything being maintained very nicely so that we can serve Lord Shri Krishna. And regarding the movie watching, it also becomes when we are becoming very much frustrated with all the things and all the distractions, then we want to think that I need some time for myself. And so this is like an escape from everything where you want some peace of mind, but instead of having peace of mind in doing bhajan kirtan and dancing for the Lordship, you are getting distracted with movie watching where you are vicariously, imagining yourself to be in the position to experience or to vicariously, get the sense of pleasure that comes from the various characters on the screen. Even better is to read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, engage in Kirtan, because then you don't have to do vicariously. You will in person, with your soul, with your body, with your extension as a family members, will be engaging in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna with devotee association, which is inspiring, it's motivating, and we are all getting training to move further on our spiritual path. Hopefully this answers your question. Hare Krishna.
That was very nice. करुणा सिंधु प्रभु जी, I hope जीव तत्व प्रभु जी ने जो बताया, that was helpful. मूवी वॉचिंग से बहुत पॉपुलेशन चैलेंज डील करती है, जो कि भक्ति पाथ पे प्रोग्रेस करना चाहते हैं, और इसके लिए हमें डेफिनेटली डिवोटी एसोसिएशन की शेल्टर लेनी चाहिए, ताकि एट ऑल टाइम्स वी रिमेंबर कृष्णा एंड वी डोंट फॉल प्रे to material activities like movie watching, which just kills our time and causes lamentation later on. And प्रभु जी ने इसके बारे में आपको और भी अच्छे points बताए. पर प्रभु जी इस वक्त I would like to take one more question. Do we have some more time?
Yes.
Okay. Rich Mesh ji, Hare Krishna. He is asking, he would like, I think he means SB, he wrote SH. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, आपको हम बता दें. Okay, I should maybe speak in English here. So if you want a copy of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, you can get a copy from nearby temple, or if you can send us a message, we can help you connect with the right devotees, who can get you the set of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, if you want to read them online, you can go to vedabase.com, vedabse.com. I will also put a link there, so you have the link. And Prabhuji, we have few more questions which will help everyone regarding their position in a household environment to make progress. So often women ask this question, कि when they raise their children in Krishna consciousness, they like to think it's an indirect service for Krishna. Is that so? And because they have to do so much household work, they don't get the time to go and serve in the temple, like, cooking there, serving the deities. So will Krishna recognize raising children in Krishna consciousness equally important?
Hare Krishna, very nice question. And actually, Srila Prabhupada said that the children are the deities for mothers, especially for mothers, means again father, mother both. And we should make sure that we take care of them very nicely. We, don't pamper them. Again, it can go on the other side as well. We are not deriding them from the basic needs, but we don't want to pamper them too much so that they go to the other side. We want to stay in a balanced stage, right? When we are taking care of them nicely, we are giving them nice samskaras, right? There are various samskaras. Samskaras means impressions. So, and children, they are like sponge, they are absorbing everything. So when we are engaging in devotional service, we have to engage in with a very happy mood. And you can perform devotional service at home itself. You can do the chanting around the children, and give them the deities to play with instead of giving them action figures like today's parents they do. If you give them deities, and then you do deity worship in front of them, And after some time, you can encourage them, hey, why don't you put your deity and you pick up the paraphernalia, you do it, imitate. Children love to imitate parents. So that is something very important. So an early training is very useful. And then when you chant, when you're doing kirtan, let them join with you and then let them do kirtan with you. Sometimes let them become the lead singer, right? Encourage them. Encourage them to play various kind of instruments. Dance with them. Not just sing with them, just also dance with them. Get up from your position. Leave the instruments for a little while and dance with them. Go around and glorifying Lord Shri Krishna. Bedtime stories, make them Lord Krishna's stories, his pastimes. Read from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam has many wonderful stories that the children would love. And when you make them, understand the glories of Lord Shri Krishna, they go to bed with that thought. So overnight they're dreaming about Lord Shri Krishna. Automatically everything becomes sublime, everything becomes transcendental and happy. Happiness is everywhere. So yes, for ladies, the children are the deities, and we have to take care of the children, so that they become Krishna conscious, because that is the service, mother can perform in Krishna consciousness. It is very essential service. Hare Krishna. Hopefully this answers your question.
Hare Krishna. Yes, that's indeed very helpful to know that, raising children in a Krishna conscious environment requires so many different creative ways. We can do all different things so everyone can come closer to Krishna. And also the question was around the subject that, is it equally an important service?
Yes.
And yes, so answer to that is yes. Okay, Prabhuji, we have one more question. How can householders constantly remember Krishna?
So again, we have talked about of the 64 limbs of devotional service, the 5 processes are most potent, right? Reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is literary incarnation. So that also serves the second one, which is worshipping deity, right? Staying at a dham. So wherever there is Srimad Bhagavatam, automatically that place becomes a dham. And chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And last but not the least is in the association of devotees. So where we should make sure that we have all these 5 elements going on all the time. Smartavya satatam Vishnu vismartavya na jati chit sarve vidhi nishedisur etayoreva kinkara. So here the 2 essential principles are identified. Smartavya satatam Vishnu. Always remember Krishna. Vismartavya na jati chit. Never forget Krishna. These are the 2 essential principles, and all other rules and regulations and prohibitions, they are just subservient to these 2 rules. So when we are constantly engaged in devotional service, we are remembering Lord Shri Krishna. We cannot forget Lord Shri Krishna. And if such incident may happen, so we want to continuously pray, oh Lord Shri Krishna, please don't let me ever forget you. Please always give your remembrance to me so that I can keep remembering you, I can keep serving you. In a humble mood, we should be constantly praying to Lord Shri Krishna. And the prayer is very simple. All we have to do is raise our hand and call out, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear viewers. Prabhuji, at this point I don't see any more questions. This is a last call to everyone. अगर आपके पास कुछ questions हैं जिनका answers आपको चाहिए spiritual life better करने के लिए, तो आप comments में लिख सकते हैं. I will read them to Prabhuji. Meanwhile, शिव कुमार पाटिल जी, शुभ्रा साहा जी, हरे कृष्णा, रश्मि आनंद जी, हरि बोल मंजुश्री स्वैन, पंडित विनी सियाल शर्मा जी, हरे कृष्णा, हरि बोल रतन कुमार जी, लिटन चंद्र सरकार, हरि बोल. We have Raman Singh, Hare Krishna, Deepak Sidana, Vandana Kardile, Hare Bol, Madan Mohan ji, Rich, Madhu Malode, Monica Dhodi, Hare Krishna, Lala Shukla, Hare Krishna. We have so many viewers watching right now. Shishupal Vaishnav ji, Amita Bagla, Motion Bomb, Kaushal Kishore. सो ये सेशन इस वक्त हम एंड कर रहे हैं, और जिन्होंने ये सेशन मिस कर दिया है दे कैन वॉच दिस लाइव, यू नो इट विल बी अवेलेबल ऑन द पेज ऑल्सो इन द प्ले लिस्ट, लेकिन ये यूट्यूब में भी अवेलेबल है। और जो हमसे कनेक्ट करना चाहते हैं वो हमें मैसेंजर पर मैसेज भेज सकते हैं। आई हैव शेयर्ड द लिंक इन द कमेंट्स। जीव तत्व प्रभु जी से कनेक्ट करने के लिए आप हमें मैसेंजर पर मैसेज भेजकर कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं। So Prabhuji, do we have like, will we be offering Lord Nrsimhadev
Sure.
prayers now?
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Dantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai,
Jai.
Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Please join us for Nrsimhadev prayers. Namaste जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, शिला भगवत्पाद की जलंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, निताय गो प्रेमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल। हरे कृष्णा।